What does symbolic interactionism theory, the biblical story of the prodigal son, and a boy in the woods have to do with each other? Is what you're probably asking yourself right now. No? Just me? No matter. I'm going to tell you anyway. So let's get into it. Okay, so first things first. Let's define our terms. According to structurallearning.com, symbolic interactionism theory is how people create and interpret the world around them. At its core, this theory posits that individuals interact with each other using symbols, words, gestures, and objects that have agreed upon meanings. Okay, but what does this mean in simple, everyday life? How does this theory actually involve you and me? That's a good question. Once again, glad you asked. So basically, symbolic interactionism theory for everyday purposes is the way that we as humans, when we're communicating, exchange different symbols and just messages in general through the way we communicate. Think of it like me when I'm trying to communicate with someone, or when I'm communicating with someone, I subconsciously convey messages through things that aren't just verbal. A lot of it actually comes down to facial expressions. So you could make 10 different facial expressions and they could all convey different meanings or emotions to the person you're talking to. Now that we have the basics down, it's probably a good idea to tell you who actually developed symbolic interactionism theory before we move on. Most people would agree that George Herbert Mead was the original founder of symbolic interactionism theory. Okay, so now that I have the basics covered, let's go ahead and head back to the studio, and there we'll talk about the prodigal son. Okay, so here we are back in my studio, otherwise known as my bedroom, and we're going to be talking about the prodigal son and how it actually relates to symbolic interactionism theory. Okay, so first things first, I'm just going to go ahead and read the story of the prodigal son to you, and we'll analyze it afterwards. So, a man had 2 sons. The younger son told his father, "I want my share of your estate now before you die." So his father agreed to divide his wealth between his sons. A few days later, this younger son packed all his belongings and moved to a distant land, and there he wasted all his money in wild living. About the time his money ran out, a great famine swept over the land, and he began to starve. He persuaded a local farmer to hire him, and the man sent him into his fields to feed the pigs. The young man became so hungry that even the pods he was feeding the pigs looked good to him, but no one gave him anything. When he finally came to his senses, he said to himself, "At home even the hired servants have food enough to spare, and here I am dying of hunger. I will go home to my father and say, 'Father, I have sinned against both heaven and you, and I am no longer worthy of being called your son. Please take me on as a hired servant.' So he returned home to his father, and while he was still a long way off, his father saw him coming. Filled with love and compassion, he ran to his son, embraced him, and kissed him. His son said to him, 'Father, I have sinned against both heaven and you, and I am no longer worthy of being called your son.' But his father said to his servants, 'Quick, bring the finest robe in the house and put it on him. Get a ring for his finger and sandals for his feet, and kill the calf we have been fattening. We must celebrate with a feast, for this son of mine was dead and has now returned to life. He was lost, but now he is found.' So the party began. Meanwhile, the older son was in the fields working. When he returned home, he heard music and dancing in the house, and he asked one of the servants what was going on. 'Your brother is back,' he was told, 'and your father has killed the fattened calf. We are celebrating because of his safe return.' The older brother was angry and wouldn't go in. His father came out and begged him, but he replied, 'All these years I've slaved for you and never once refused to do a single thing that you have told me to. And all the time you never gave me even one young goat for a feast with my friends. Yet when this son of yours comes back after squandering your money on prostitutes, you celebrate by killing the fattened calf.' His father said to him, 'Dear son, you have always stayed by me, and everything I have is yours. We had to celebrate this happy day because your brother was dead and has come back to life. He was lost, and now he is found.'" So now that we know what the story of the prodigal son is, let's go ahead and dive into how it relates to symbolic interactionism theory. So ultimately, in symbolic interactionism, symbols play a crucial role in communication and meaning making. In the story, various symbols are evident, such as the ring and the robe given to the returning son. These symbolize restoration and acceptance. The fattened calf slaughtered for the celebration symbolizes reconciliation and forgiveness. And these symbols carry meaning not just for the characters within the story, but also for readers and listeners. And they reflect the importance of symbols in social interactions and interpretations. Now, as far as interactions and interpretations are concerned, symbolic interactionism focuses on how individuals interpret symbols and create meaning through social interactions. The interactions between the characters in the story, particularly the prodigal son, his father, and his brother, illustrate this concept. Each character interprets the symbols and actions differently based on their perspectives, values, and experiences. For instance, the prodigal son initially interprets his father's wealth as a means to pursue his own desires, while his brother interprets the celebration of his return as unfair treatment. These differing interpretations reflect the complexities of social interactions and how they shape individuals' perceptions and behaviors. Now, when it comes to self and identity, symbolic interactionism emphasizes the role of social interactions in shaping self-concept and identity. The prodigal son's journey, from indulging in hedonistic pleasures to experiencing hardship and ultimately returning home, illustrates the process of identity formation through social interactions. His actions and interactions with others influences understanding of himself, leading to self-reflection and transformation. Similarly, his father's acceptance and forgiveness contribute to his reintegration into the family and the reaffirmation of his identity. Now, when it comes to social structure and change within the story, symbolic interactionism acknowledges the dynamic nature of social structures and how they are constructed through ongoing interactions. In the story, the interactions between the characters reflect broader social dynamics such as families' relationships, societal norms, and moral values. The prodigal son's departure and return disrupts the family's equilibrium and leads to conflict and eventual reconciliation. This illustrates how individual actions can influence and reshape social structures over time. Overall, the story of the prodigal son provides a compelling narrative through which to explore key concepts of symbolic interactionism, highlighting the significance of symbols, interactions, identity, and social dynamics in understanding human behavior and society. Thank you.